Welcome everyone to another Conversations in the Void. I'm your host, Graveyard, joined as always with my off-screen producer, Salem. Make sure to say hi to Salem in the chat. He likes to hear everyone's comments. I am pleased to introduce our guest for tonight. She is a writer, director, actress with works including the Crystal Lake Massacres Revisited, Psychotherapy, Rock and Roll Nightmare books, and Shevenge. Please welcome to the Void, Staci Layne Wilson.
Hi, I'm in the void. Oh my gosh.
Yes. I mean, we're the void. It's the internet, right? We're just shouting out into it. And
right. I do that every day.
So how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Yeah, it's like I said, it's Wednesday. I'm excited. Big plans for this weekend, so I'm excited to go do that too.
What are you gonna do?
I'm going up to Michigan for a day. We're filming some test shots for our upcoming movie that we're working on.
Oh, that's exciting. Good luck.
Yeah. It's just a 24-hour trip, so nice and easy.
Yeah.
All right, so Staci, before we get into kind of the meat and potatoes, I'd like to get to know a little bit more about you. So what really brought you into the world of horror? Like, do you remember your first horror movie?
I do. I can't remember exactly how old I was. I was pretty young though, and I was staying with my dad. My parents were divorced when I was 2, so I would stay with him sometimes, but I lived with my mom. Mm-hmm. And he loved those old Vincent Price movies, you know, the Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe, you know, those. And so I wanted to stay up late because I was a real night owl when I was a little kid. I'm not anymore now. I'm a morning person, but he was a night owl too, being a musician. So he was watching The Pit and the Pendulum, and I begged him to let me stay up to watch it with him. And I was just captivated. I loved it. So that's what really, I think, got me hooked initially. But my mom also liked horror movies, and she showed me The Exorcist when I was way too young to see that. You know, I'm a Gen X kid, so in the 70s, we were pretty feral. You know, we could watch anything, do anything. You know, it was just no holds barred. So I did see The Exorcist, and I read a lot of her Stephen King novels, too, when I was a kid.
Awesome. Yeah, I love Stephen King. I think as soon as I got a library card as a kid, I went to the library and started just all Stephen King just to catch up with everything I was missing.
Yeah, you know, though, when you go back and read it now, it's kind of dated. You know, there's a lot of like really crude sexual situations, it seemed like in the 70s and 80s. It's like, let's just throw in a sex scene for no apparent reason.
Mm-hmm. It's cocaine, you know. Yeah, it's astounding that, you know, we have stuff that's just getting remade. You know, we just had Osgood Perkins remake The Monkey from his short story in the 80s.
That's right, yeah.
And it's interesting to see it kind of in a more modern time frame, but still holds that classic small town feel with it.
It does, and the fear of toys. You know, I think every child sleeping alone in their dark room, you know, imagines their stuffed animals coming to life or their action figures or anything. And it's never for a good reason. It's always to kill you, right?
Yeah. I think my wife has a story that, you know, if you were under the blankets, you couldn't have a foot sticking out because the monster would be able to grab it from under the bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
I was just lucky that way because I had 2 older sisters who tormented me, but I started scaring them when I was young. So I never had the monster in the bed because I was their monster.
Revenge.
Oh, yeah. So do you have any, like, you know, underground horror movie that you can think of that you just really enjoy that most people don't know about that you'd love to share to get people to watch?
Well, I could pick one of my own. Not many people have watched those. But I'll have to go with The Autopsy of Jane Doe, because even though horror heads like us, we know it and we love it, but I think it's not one of those horror films that the general public knows about. And I think it was pretty creepy and very well acted, and just the whole premise of it was different.
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially a bottle movie because it's in the autopsy room.
Yeah.
The entire time with 2 people and a body.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's very insular. I think that's what adds to the creep factor.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's no escape.
Yeah. Now, on the reverse side, do you ever have like a movie that you watch or franchise you go, I don't get why this is so popular?
Oh yeah, the Terrifier franchise. Those aren't for me. No, I prefer more psychological horror, or even ones that have like a little bit of humor to them, like the Nightmare on
Hmm.
Elm Street franchise is one of my favorites. Yeah, Terrifier. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not of the right age demographic for it, but it doesn't resonate with me at all.
I get that. Like I enjoyed All Hallows Eve, which was the prequel to Terrifier, and the first Terrifier because that felt harkened to me back to 80s slashers.
Yeah, the
Which
first Terrifier was all right. When I
yeah,
saw it, I was like, okay, this, that some of the death scenes were really gruesome and quite shocking and fun. But yeah, as the second one, I just really couldn't even get through it. It was,
hmm.
yeah, and then I didn't bother with the others.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have a slasher horror sleeve,
Ah, there
so
you go.
you know.
Yeah,
I like slashers, but I completely agree with you on Terrifier. It's a lot of hype for a lot. Yes, the gore is great, but there's not a
there's
lot of
not a
story
story.
behind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's just kind of like we got to like Jason or Friday the 13th 8, where it's just the kills and the story doesn't.
Right. Unless you're watching Jason Takes Manhattan, then there's almost nothing until you kind of got to really wait for it on that one.
Just that Crystal Lake that was enclosed also has a river to go into Manhattan.
Yeah, well, movie
uh,
logic.
oh yeah, of course. They're like, how do we get Jason to Manhattan? Clearly, water. Sure, movie. Sure. So, Stacy, with all this, the love of horror stuff like that, how did you get into filmmaking then?
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles and Hollywood. So, when you get your birth certificate, they also give you your DGA card at birth. So it's just kind of something that we all kind of fall into. But no, I've always been a storyteller and a creative person. I started writing little books when I was a kid, stapling together typing
Hmm.
paper and illustrating them and writing them myself by hand. So I've always loved to tell stories. And I made a fun short film co-starring Ogre from Skinny Puppy. He played an Edgar Allan Poe character, and going back to, of course, my love for
Hmm.
those Roger Corman films. And I made a short film, and a producer saw it, and she liked it, and she said, "Hey, have you ever thought of doing a feature?" So that's how I got my first feature, and it just kind of went from there. And I concentrated on it for quite a while, but in the past few years, I've kind of been heading more into my books because that's such a great solitary pursuit. And I'm kind of like, uh, maybe not a team player. I don't know. I just kind of like to be able to do things on my own at my own pace and work independently. So there's two different ways to fulfill yourself creatively. And I like them both, but I've really been focusing on my books lately.
Hmm. I mean, have you thought about just penning some screenplays and just handing it off then to someone else to make and just be the writer for it?
Yeah, I have some, but I don't have an agent or anything, so I haven't really pursued that too much.
Yeah, independence, as you know, has to wear many, many, many hats to do
Oh yeah, and
a movie.
nowadays it's really hard to make money. It used to be where you could upload your own film to Amazon Prime, but now there are so many gatekeepers and everything that it's just not like it used to be. It's really, really hard to make money doing anything creatively now
Hmm.
because it's such a glut of content, and then there's coupled with the gatekeepers, which makes it more difficult. So that's why I love books, because that's just kind of like easy for me to do. I have a publishing company of my own, and I also work with some independent boutique publishers. So I kind of have to get the best worlds there. So
That's awesome. And, it's as an independent creator, getting your movies on Amazon really hard sometimes.
oh yeah, really.
So it's just I wish it was easier just to get it out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's got its pros and cons and always has. We
Yeah,
just have to adapt or pivot.
yeah. Now with your books, with your Rock and Roll Nightmares, have you thought about creating those into like a franchise or a TV show or even some movies?
Yeah, I think that the concept of the books, both the nonfiction true crime aspect of it and the short story collections would lend themselves really well to maybe something on Shudder or Vice or something like that. And I have put a few feelers out, but I haven't fully taken a run at it just yet.
Yeah. Now, chat has a good question. If someone's to make it, who would you want to direct your films? Would it be you, or do you want someone else to do it?
I love being the writer. I mean, directing is fun, but for something like a TV show, I think it would be cool to have different directors come in. You know how some horror anthologies have different directors putting their own spin on material that's connected. That would be fun.
Yeah, we did, a group of us did 5 short films and did 5 episodes of a found footage anthology TV show. We did season 1. We're working on season 2. It's just different, as you said, just way to have different people have their short stories really showcase into a collection of similar things, like Tales from the Crypt almost.
Yeah, I love that as a viewer and as a creator. So that's a great idea.
Yeah. Now, with your dad being who your dad is, right, and being a rock historian, how'd that influence you in your career and incorporating music into a lot of your stuff?
Well, I've always loved guitar-driven rock music. That's just been something that's been with me ever since I was really young, buying records on vinyl, although I guess it's making a comeback. But yeah, so back in the day, I always loved music, but I never really parlayed it into my professional life until I would say 2020, when the pandemic came along, that it was a time where you could really just sit and create because you couldn't do much else. And so I had the idea for the Rock and Roll Nightmares book series and collaborated with some other writers on short stories, but also wrote some true crime stories. And it's just always been something that I've enjoyed as a pleasurable pursuit. My bookcase is full of rock coffee table books, rock biographies, autobiographies, rock history. So it's stuff that I had already known a lot about, and to incorporate it into my love of horror fiction and true crime, I kind of wondered, why didn't I do this a long time ago? But better late than never. It's up to 13 books now in the series since just 2020.
Wow, yeah, you are a busy writer.
As a long career in journalism and having to meet a lot of deadlines and fact check and do all those things lickety split, it really kind of put me at an advantage, I think, when it comes to being a self-starter.
That's awesome. Now, do you think that, like me, Slumber Party Massacre 2 is the best rock horror movie?
Well, I'd have to say yes, because I know the director, Deborah Brock. She's a good friend of mine. I do love that one. There are so many good ones, especially from the 80s. I have a terrible time remembering titles, but there was that one that Ozzy Osbourne was in. Remember, he played like a television preacher. What was that one called? Anyway, I'm sure your watchers will know what it was called, but that's fun. And there's even Rock and Roll Nightmare, which is a good one. The Crow kind of has that really cool rock sensibility to it with its horror and its sci-fi aspects, the supernatural. I feel like it lends itself really well.
Yeah, I think it does, because I've had this conversation with people that when we were getting like theme music for this show and a couple of projects, I want metal and rock to be that. And I was told, oh, they don't go together. They've never gone together. I'm like, they have for like 50 years at this point.
Yeah. Ever heard of Alice Cooper?
Right. Yeah, I think
that's it. Trick or Treat. Thank you.
Trick or Treat, because without the O, that's the 2007 movie.
That's right. That's Trick or Treat. Yes, I was actually on the set for that. I was a journalist and got to be on the set watching that being filmed. And then it took years for it to come out.
Oh, I remember in like 2004 seeing the trailer, and then my now wife and girlfriend goes, I can't wait for this. And we waited and waited.
I thought it was really good, though. I mean, it was worth the wait.
Oh, that we watch that on Halloween night every year, hands down.
Right.
That's awesome. So you said, talk about the different stuff you've done, but you don't work in just horror. You've done documentary, you've done comedy in your stuff too. So why, do you think that the variety is the spice of life when it comes to your writing and filmmaking?
Oh, definitely. Either that or I can't make up my mind. I'm kind of a voracious consumer of different kinds of TV shows and movies and books and music. So, yeah, I guess I'd have to say that it is the variety, the spice of it that attracts me. It's usually got to have some kind of emotional anchor to it, though, that I can connect with.
Mm-hmm. And you have made some music documentaries that have won awards. And what's the difference for you kind of doing a documentary versus your scripted movies?
Well, the documentary came about because my dad, who's the co-founder of the Ventures, was kind of lamenting the fact that in all the years that the Ventures had been together, even after being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, there was no documentary about them. And in I want to say like 2015, 16, 17, there were so many music documentaries coming out. And, he said, well, you're a filmmaker. Why don't you do it? I'm like, oh, okay. But I didn't realize how much more difficult it would be to make a documentary. There's just so much red tape and legalities and scheduling nightmares trying to get, 30 different people to talk about the Ventures on their crazy schedules. So it took a couple of years to get it all together and to navigate my way through fair use and the legalities with the help of a lawyer, thankfully an entertainment lawyer. So it was really, really grueling. I probably would not choose to make another documentary again unless I was just a hired hand to write or direct it. I wouldn't want to produce one again.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize, as you said, there's red tape that deals with it because you are going to the past. You are maybe bringing stuff up that people didn't know about, even with documentary.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways it can go too. When you're directing a narrative film, you have a script to follow. You've got actors who will say what they're supposed to say, and that doesn't happen with the documentary at all. And our documentary really didn't take shape until we were editing it and kind of found like certain interviewees were saying different things that were kind of on the same train of thought. So the documentary turned out to be more focused on the Ventures' influence of other bands. So the Ventures are a group that launched 1,000 groups. And so we kind of found that as we were making and editing the film. Mm-hmm. So you don't have that with a narrative, which I like to know what I'm going to do and what's going to happen. I don't really like uncertainty. So for me, I do prefer the narrative experience.
Yeah, I can see that. I know I've talked to someone who's made, the movies that made us, toys that made us on Netflix, and how that process went and how he did it during even the pandemic was they took a machine, laptop and camera, sent it to people's houses and they just recorded it. And then they sent it to the next person, the next person, and the next person.
Yeah, well, people did what they had to do the pandemic. But interestingly enough, the last feature film that I directed and co-wrote, it's a rock and roll sci-fi comedy. We shot that in 2019 before anybody knew there was going to be a pandemic, but it was just basically a two-hander in one location. And when it came out in late 2020, people assumed, oh, you must have made this because of the pandemic, but we didn't. So just kind of, one of those things.
Yeah.
Serendipity, I guess.
Yeah. And I imagine, obviously you have a lot of footage when you're making a movie, but how many hours do you think you had in your documentary that you had to cut down to? Like,
I can't even think about it. I do know how to edit, but I prefer not to. So I had a great editor, Nina Hurton, who also did the animation in the film and placed the music because she's a musician. So she's like all these great sort of professions rolled into one person, and she really took the reins on that. We communicated, though, quite closely. She would send me bits and pieces online, and I'd look at it and we'd talk, but we have very similar sensibilities. So it was a pretty painless process when it came to that.
That's good. Yeah, I know I hate editing my own stuff personally, so I'd rather have someone else do it than me.
Yeah. I mean, it really is a skill set that not everyone should try to tackle.
Yeah. Especially when it's myself. I don't like looking at myself and editing myself.
Oh God, nobody does.
I can't do that. And I think your Cabaret of the Dead was, to me, it felt like a love letter to the 80s, to the 70s and the 80s of the Deads. So you can tell us a little bit about Cabaret of the Dead, aka Fetish Factory, right?
Yes, that's right. Well, Fetish Factory was the original title, but it came up with some really bizarre search results. So the distributor changed it to Cabaret of the Dead, which I like just as well. I think they're both good titles. Yeah, it was. And it was definitely a scrappy experience, kind of like going back again to Roger Corman, where we shot it in just 5 days. And we had a lot going on. We had the burlesque aspect with the girls dancing and the makeup and the costumes. And then we had the horror aspect with the zombies and the makeup and the costumes. So, and it's a pretty big cast. So there's a lot to wrangle, and you really have to be careful. You can't go overtime or anything like that. So it was hard to get our inserts and things like that we had to kind of do after the fact. We have like, hands on doorknobs and things like that, where we had to grab that later. But yeah, in 5 days, we accomplished so much. I'm really proud of everyone.
Yeah, 5 days is typically, I agree. That's what our shooting schedule is about, 5 to 7 days. But you said it's makeup shots, it's the extra stuff you have to do, the B-roll. It's a lot of extra work that it's just usually you, the camera guy, and the director going to do the extra stuff over.
Exactly.
You can.
Yeah, but it's also exhilarating. It's fun.
But I know Cabaret Dead had a lot of rock music in there. You even had a band playing during the cabaret show.
Yeah, we had this whole stage show going on and everything. Yeah, the producers, Michael Bean, who you know is an actor, and his wife Jennifer, she was very hands-on, and she knew a lot of those people. So it was really great to have that talent to bring on. I was able to cast the leads that I liked. Carrie Keegan as the Betty Page kind of character. She was a fellow junketeer of mine, but also a friend and an actor. And this was her first lead role. And she was just a dream to work with. So it was really great.
Yeah, I said you had, Betty Page, you had your Rosie the Riveter in it.
Yes. And we had Kristen Risk as herself with her whip dance.
Yeah. So how important, the music, picking the music and putting it in there, how you with your, rock historian music, do you do a lot of research to put music in there to fit with your motif, or do you have stuff kind of in mind beforehand?
Well, I wanted to work with a certain composer who also loves rock music. His name is Mars, and he's based in Sacramento, California. And I had actually reviewed a horror movie that he scored years before. And I just reached out to him and I said, I really loved what you did with that. And we just became friends. And so he was my natural go-to for that. I did have a few directives, like there's one scene where the victims are kind of sneaking downstairs, and I wanted that Scooby-Doo feel to it. So I asked him to kind of, let's mimic that music. And then there's another part where there's kind of this sci-fi moment where one of the people who's turning into a zombie is looking into the mirror. And I wanted a theremin sound to that because they had that in those 50s and 60s sci-fi.
From Outer Space, Ed Wood, absolutely.
Yeah, all that stuff. So I did have some directives, but Mars is certainly accomplished and talented enough on his own to be able to pretty much work on his own with that. And he did a great job.
That's awesome. That's something I feel our movies that I'm working on tend to lack a little bit of, is a composer and music into it that we can actually play, right?
Yeah, there really is. Composers really can be a personality in and of themselves. Like if you think about Danny Elfman working, on Tim Burton's films, there's, you just know it's him, and there's that feel that is underlying and really brings a lot of life to the film.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm looking for a good one. If you happen to know one, that's
I do.
It works with an indie budget.
Right, yeah.
I can't pay for, I don't listen to any music today. I listen to old metal and punk, so I don't know any new stuff, but I definitely want metal and punk in my stuff any chance I can.
Oh yeah, I think it's a great fit with horror.
Oh yeah. Now, you talked about that you did stuff in the past. You did Inside Horror, you did Dread Central Live, and now you're in your 13th season of your Rock and Roll Nightmares. And what's that been like, from doing it 11 years ago to just starting it, I think, in 2022 with Rock and Roll Nightmares? What's changed?
No, it hasn't really changed. I mean, you're always talking to people about things that they want to bring to light, and you have a common love of horror or music. So when you're talking with an interviewee that is like-minded, it's like talking to a friend. And so that's always been pretty easy for me. I did a lot of red carpets back in the day, a lot of press junkets. And so when it came to co-hosting the TV shows that I had with Matt Robb and Elric Kane, we were also, just among friends. So it felt really good. It felt really natural. But one of the things that I love to do is to put the spotlight on talent. So I really enjoy being able to choose the guest myself for the Rock and Roll Nightmares podcast. And I have really put a focus on authors of rock novels and authors of rock biographies, because I don't feel like books get the attention that music or movies do. So right. That is one of my things that I like to focus on. But, it's kind of whatever catches my attention. If I see, get a preview of a movie that looks good or a documentary that I want to spotlight, I just reach out to the publicist, and it usually comes together really well. In fact, tomorrow I'll be interviewing a member, the lead singer of the Zombies. Remember that group from the 60s? Yeah. So they have a new documentary out, and I got to see it. And I said, I'd love to talk to them. And so they'll be on the show. And it's just great to kind of have that spontaneity, I guess. And I don't answer to anyone because the show is not monetized. I don't make any money from it. I just do it from my heart.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would love, this is why I do this show, is just be able to talk to people like yourself in the industry, and writers and comic book creators and just creatives, and just kind of learn their stories. And that's why I do it. It's just, I get to learn behind the scenes stuff too. So it's absolute blast doing stuff like that. Yeah. We're not monetized either by any stretch.
Most of us aren't, but I think it's just great to be able to meet people and learn their stories and get their stories out to a possible audience. And so, it's been really great. Every time I think, well, gee, maybe I just don't have time to do this anymore, I should quit. And then like a trailer will pop up where I'll get a manuscript to read. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I can do one or two more episodes.
Yeah. And, it's a good cross too, because you think, with rock and music, with being horror movies too, you think of, obviously Rob Zombie, but then Spider-1, his brother from Power Man 5000, is doing a series of movies. He just released the one last year.
Yeah, he was on my channel. Yeah, and I've known Spider for years. He used to be a reporter for Fangoria, so we'd stand on the red carpet together. And it's really great to see him and Chrissy doing their thing and getting it out there.
Yeah, I thought Little Bites was outstanding.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So Staci, we're gonna get into the wrap-up questions. We're at about that time.
Okay.
So, what's your favorite scary movie?
I have to say The Shining. It's a tried and true oldie but goodie, but there's just something about it that always draws me in. Same with Suspiria. It's one of those ones where, I'll put it on and I'll just get drawn into the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you like the Suspiria remake? It came out a couple years
ago. No, I didn't really. I mean, it was all right. It had its moments. I think if I didn't know anything about the original, I would have liked it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I completely agree. Yeah, there was a lot more actual dance in the new Suspiria, but the classic's the classic for a reason. It's just dark colors, the bright reds. Oh yeah.
And the music is incredible.
Absolutely. All right. Next question is practical or CGI?
Practical. Yes. But it takes longer on our 5-day shoots. Much longer.
Yes, it does. And generally, if you're lucky, you get 2 takes. If you're not lucky, you get 1.
That's it. Better work the first time.
Yeah, we've done one take stuff. We just go, all right, we have to dump 5 gallons of blood onto someone. And then they have to do it again. If they do it again, we don't have time tonight to do that again. Yeah, like I said, everyone's pretty much has said practical. 2 people have said CGI. Won't hold it against them.
Yeah, what did the trap door open underneath them and they...
Oh, like I said, one guy, because he does that for a living. I accept that answer.
You have to say it then.
All right, so Staci, if you were able to write and direct a film in any existing IP or franchise, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm thinking maybe something that Fellini did. Maybe I would do, what was the one? I just watched it recently too. Like I said, I'm terrible with remembering titles. Juliet of the Spirits.
Okay.
Yeah, it almost went into horror territory with the religious iconography and this eerie kind of dream sequences, but it didn't go there. So it would be fun to try something like that because the themes are still very relevant. I would like to try that and have that Technicolor feel, which is just that really saturated, beautiful reds, blues, greens. So I don't think anyone's ever remade a Fellini movie, so that would be pretty cheeky. Yeah. I might try it, given the budget.
Yeah.
And
now, what would you do? A Nightmare on Elm Street by chance?
Sure. I love those. Those are great, and I love Robert Englund. He's awesome.
I mean, let's face it, anyone can do better than the 2010 one that we got.
Yes, and I was on that set too. So, it was fun. It's always fun as a reporter to see any kind of horror movie getting made, and got to know Derek a little bit, and he's just a great guy. So you don't want to really pan, because you like them. So there's always that kind of slippery slope when you're a reporter and a reviewer. You have to be honest, but not cruel.
Yeah. There's really just one key difference they changed to Freddy that I just didn't care for. I could get past the CGI. It's just making him more of that special room scene that he had. Like, that was too far for me for Freddy.
Yeah, and also they really, I think they humanized him too much to where he was kind of this tragic figure and he couldn't be villainous.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so Staci, any advice for people getting into filmmaking, into writing that you can give?
Yeah, just do it. I mean, don't think about it. Don't wait for that perfect moment. Get in there, at least get some words down, get some things, shot or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Because I feel like once you have even a little bit, it's encouraging and you start to get into it and you dive in and then you can actually finish it. But if you just keep thinking about it, it's kind of like diving into that ice cold pool. The longer you wait, the less likely you are to get in there. So you just got to jump in.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's because I always tell people too, just finish the project. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just get something out there. You're always going to be your own worst critic.
Yeah, that's true.
For it. All right, so you ready for your random horror trivia question?
I don't know. We'll see.
All right. A sweet and addictive dessert claiming to have 0 calories turns people into zombie-like creatures in what 1985 film?
Wow. A dessert. I don't know. What is it?
The Stuff.
Oh, The Stuff. Yeah, I had we had Larry on our show, Larry Cohen, but I never saw the movie. So I guess I can claim ignorance on that one.
It's a really interesting movie that it looks like yogurt, but it looks like almost like Dairy Queen pints of ice cream, the soft serve. It looks like
okay. Huh. Does it look yummy or no?
The way they're eating it, no.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I need to see that movie.
Yeah, just almost think like The Blob, but it's just white stuff that turns people into zombies, and that's the movie.
All right.
Check it out, though. I highly suggest it.
Okay, I will. All
right, Staci, where can people find you, follow you, learn everything about you?
Everything. It's pretty easy. I'm sure anybody can find out anything. No, but I'm certainly not hiding. I'm on social media. I use Instagram the most right now. I just started a new Substack called Rock Paper Shadows, and that's been really fun. I've been doing some true crime, some rock and roll trivia, and some original horror stories that people can't read anywhere else. So that's fun. If you like, that sort of thing, please follow me on Substack and check it out. Or you can go to my website, which is stacilayne.wilson.com, and then it has links to everywhere that I am.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Staci, for coming on. Hope you had a good time. I had a blast. So thank you everyone for watching. Follow us on all social media at PodOutatNight, and we'll see you next time. Don't get lost in the void. Good night.